Hey guys, welcome to Thing Duality. Listen, if you're an oil enthusiast or if you're an investor in oil or an investor in anything that has any kind of relation to oil and gas, or if you just happen to be a concerned citizen that has been impacted financially because of the rise of oil and gas at the pumps, this video is for you. Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive, but I want to do kind of like an on the surface swim and try to understand a little bit more about what could be the reasoning behind the rise, shall I say, the crash of oil prices. I was going to say the rise of oil prices, and the reason why some people are a little bit confused and conflicted is because with everything that's happening right now, geopolitically speaking, and I'm not just talking about what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, but I'm talking about what's happening in the Middle East with the conflicts that are going on and with a lot of countries just teetering on the brink of war. And with the high cost of inflation, the economy, and supply chain shortages, and with all these backdoor meetings that are going on between these countries, and like with BRICS, and then you got the US dollar on one hand, and there's a lot of things that are going on, a lot of things that could affect the cost of oil and gas. But there's a lot of people, there's a lot of experts that are talking about, the possibility of an oil crash, right? And the oil market's pretty much on the brinks of collapse. Now, some people are probably going to argue this, and they're going to be like, there's no way in, HE double hockey sticks that could potentially happen because, well, if if the conflicts in the Middle East continue to escalate, and it seems like they are, well, there is a strong likelihood that the price of oil is just going to start to go way up. And that could be a fact. But then there's a lot of people on the other hand that are saying there's something else more. I'm not going to, maybe sinister. There's something else that's going on in the background that just doesn't make sense, and it's going against the grain, and it's starting to really make people think. They're scratching their heads wondering, wait a minute, is something else really going on behind the scenes that could be at play here? So the question is whether you think there is a possibility that the oil industry is potentially on the brinks of collapse. Is that a possibility? Is that a reality? So like I said, there's many experts on both sides of the coins. Some people feel that, nope, there's no way oil is going to continue to go up regardless of how you look at it. And then there's some that say that we might be closer than you think. And so that's kind of interesting. That's what I want to kind of get into. And there could be some factors, some known factors that could be staring right at us at our face that could be the reason behind all this. Now, some people speculate that China and Saudi Arabia are playing a strategic game to bring down the price of oil. Now, is that a possibility? And so brace yourself for an eye-opening kind of revelation, so to speak, or analysis into this China-Saudi connection. And it may not just be China and Saudi. There could be other countries as well. Russia could also be involved. Iran could also be involved. But I'm going to talk about China and Saudi, and then you guys can use your kind of you guys can make your own opinion on what you think else could be potentially stirring the pot. But I personally think it's not just China and Saudi Arabia potentially playing games here to manipulate the price of oil or manipulate the markets to affect the price of oil. I think there's some other countries as well that could be working in the background to potentially add fuel to the fire. So recent fluctuations in the oil market have obviously left many investors on edge. This is just a normal part of the business cycle, obviously, or could it be, as I mentioned before, that something more sinister is at play? So stay with us. We'll try to uncover this and try to make some sense of it. Now, China is the world's largest consumer of oil. Okay? They also happen to be the world's largest oil importer as well. And they've been quietly stockpiling massive reserves of oil, allowing them to exert significant influence on the market. So by them hoarding and stockpiling all this oil, it's starting to impact the price of oil. That's one thing. Now, on the other hand, you've got Saudi Arabia, who happens to be the world's largest oil exporter, and they've been flooding the market with like cheap oil, okay? And they're obviously doing that because they want to maintain its dominance as well too. So Saudi Arabia has long maintained a close relationship with China, and now they're also formed alliances and relationships with the likes of Iran and Russia. And if you don't remember, not too long ago, China helped kind of broker some kind of like a peace initiative between Saudi Arabia and Iran, bringing them together. But there's a lot of other business interests that the countries have that could be kind of playing into this. But see that in itself is a question, right? What if this alliance that we're talking about between China and Saudi Arabia could be a lot more? Is there a hidden agenda? Is there something more sinister at play? Again, this is something that it's just based on. I mean, right now it's just speculative. I mean, it you can draw your own inferences, your own opinions on what you think could be potentially happening behind the scenes. But the fact of the matter is, like it or not, no matter how you see it, this alliance between China and Saudi Arabia is for real, and it could be a lot more bigger than we think. Okay, so we already know there's experts on both sides of the coin, right? And some experts speculate that China, driven by its insatiable need for energy, is most likely collaborating with the likes of Saudi Arabia. And in fact, that is the case. In fact, China is not only collaborating with Saudi Arabia, they're collaborating and establishing closer relationships and diplomatic ties with Russia, with Iran, and with a lot of other countries as well too. And we'll get to that in just a second here. But those same experts that believe that China and Saudi Arabia are collaborating and working together, they're not wrong, and this could be collusion, and it's definitely, like, no matter how you look at it, it's definitely a strategic move to eliminate any competition and gain even more control of the global oil market. Now, by pushing prices down, they can force smaller oil producers out of business, and this has been a strategic move and kind of like a tactic that they've been using for quite some time. Now, this by forcing the smaller guys out of business, this allows China and Saudi Arabia to kind of strengthen their grip on the market and on the industry as a whole. So this game that's going on between China and Saudi Arabia has definitely caused an oversupply of oil and created a downward pressure on prices. Now, as a result, we have seen a significant drop in oil prices over the past years, months. Now, depending on how you look at it, I know it's been up and down. The markets kind of go down, they go up, right? I mean, that's usual, that's typical with any industry, with any sector. But when we're talking about energy, we did see a spike of oil prices, and then all of a sudden now they're starting to kind of go down. When that happens, whenever you see any kind of extremity, when you see anything kind of going up and high in value, like at a rapid rate, or anything that starts to significantly fall pretty fast, that causes global turmoil in the markets, right? And it puts many oil producing nations on the edge. Now, when that happens, why on earth would that be of interest to countries like China and Saudi Arabia? Well, the answer lies in economics, okay? And a crash in the oil market would significantly weaken competing economies and give China an opportunity to assert its dominance. And now, again, it's not just China; it's Saudi Arabia as well too. They're both after that very important piece of the pie. And maybe they don't want a piece of the pie; they want a majority of the pie, right? So by countries like China, by cooperating with Saudi Arabia, they could have more control of the price of oil and potentially disrupt the global energy balance. Now, countries like Venezuela, Nigeria, Russia, they've been hit hard, okay, facing economic crisis and political instability in their nations as their main source of revenue starts to dwindle, which is why these very countries are starting to work with countries like China and Saudi Arabia so they can kind of all be on the same page and have a share in that big pie that we're talking about so that they all prosper. Now, the impacts have been felt in every corner of the world, right? From fuel pumps to the food we put on our tables. And this is kind of why I mentioned that it doesn't matter if you're an investor or if you're just the average ordinary citizen who's being impacted financially because of the rise of goods and services. Especially when you go to the pump and you're filling gas, you would know it there. And especially when you're putting food on the table, you're going to know it there as well too, right? So whenever there's a fluctuation, whenever there's any kind of turmoil when it relates to the oil markets, we're going to feel it regardless. We feel it each and every day. Now, furthermore, China's Belt and Road Initiative. You've been hearing a lot about this, and China's been working really hard with a lot of nations and countries about building stronger ties and diplomatic ties and economic ties, within a lot of different countries. And this Belt and Road Initiative is very important to them. And it's part of a global infrastructure project that they have. And they've definitely expanded their influence across a lot of oil-rich nations. And that's obviously, again, to bring these countries together so they're all on the same page. They can trade between each other, and because of which you'll have low tariffs, low taxes. It just makes sense for a lot of those countries to be able to work together because, again, they're all going to be able to achieve the same kind of outcome, which is to make money, right? And that's what they want to do at the end of the day. So this positioning with this Belt and Road Initiative that China is doing, this positioning will allow China to extract maximum benefits and gain an upper hand in any potential oil market crash. So while this may seem like a doomsday scenario for you and I, but it's good. It's important to know that there could be a silver lining at the end of the day. So the drop in oil prices has definitely accelerated the adoption of renewable energy sources, and as a world as a whole seeks alternatives, the demand for cleaner energy has definitely skyrocketed, given rise to a new era of innovation and sustainability. So this is important because a lot of people are starting to look right at alternatives to oil and gas. And the question I guess you and I have to ask ourselves is, what does this mean for you and I? Well, we need to understand that staying informed, keeping abreast with what's going on with the oil and gas industry and with the markets. I mean, that's all important. But if I'm when if I'm just kind of stepping back here for a second, if I'm looking at the markets overall, my number one question still is oil on the verge of crashing? Like, what exactly is going on, and how's this going to how's this going to impact me? And although the signs certainly point that we're headed towards that direction, that oil is going to crash. The future is never written in stone. And I mean, you guys know this for a fact, right? I mean, with everything that's going on right now geopolitically, nothing is written in stone. And there are so many surprises that happen on a day-to-day basis. So one can only speculate, right? Now, the China-Saudi conspiracy may obviously be driving a force, may be a driving force in behind all this turmoil and all this confusion and ambiguity that's surrounding the markets, or disruption, shall I say. But it also presents an opportunity for change. And I was just talking about that, right? Because now people are starting to seek alternatives, and they're looking, the demand for cleaner energy solutions and more innovative research and scientific research is starting to happen in the background. So this presents an opportunity for change and a chance to move away from our dependency on fossil fuels and potentially embrace a cleaner, greener future, right? So more eco-friendly alternatives and solutions are definitely on the table. And if we can move away and steer away from fossil fuels, which obviously would significantly reduce our carbon footprint, I think that's a win-win for each and every one of us. And that partially has to do with a lot of the tactics that they're using and strategy behind climate friendly initiatives, right? So that's important. And I think that's something that I definitely want to talk about. And, it does relate to the world of finance and relates to a lot of things that are happening and affect us, and impact us on a day-to-day basis. So definitely stay tuned for some more eye-opening insights right here on our channel. If you like and hear what you see, please like and share and subscribe. Obviously by liking and subscribing, that's amazing. That will definitely help us be able to continue to provide you with more valued content. But by sharing these videos, with your friends and family, obviously that goes a long way as well too. So I want to thank you again for taking the time to watch this video. And you know what? Enjoy yourself, stay warm, stay healthy, wherever you are, whatever you are. Thank you again for joining, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.